society tells us that the guy that we should celebrate is the king. It's the single entrepreneur or the single guy who's out there running it all by himself. We want some sort of, mystical hero to point to and be like, oh, that's who I'm supposed to be like. Unfortunately, for as many of those guys as there may even be, first of all, if you look at the personal lives, a lot of these guys, they're absolute mess, right? Because they have no balance, right? It's ridiculous. And yet we hold them up somehow as some sort of standard of how we're all supposed to be. It's very strange, right? And in F3, we really reject that. We just absolutely ignore that. We say that's not how any of us is going to survive. It's not how any of us is going to do well. We believe that you only get there with your brothers. And so we want you to have as many brothers as humanly possible so that you have a better chance of getting where it is you're trying to go.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 26 of The Age of Lions. So glad that you're here today. We have an amazing guest. You heard a clip from him just now. That is Frank Schwartz. Frank Schwartz is what we call El Presidente. He is the top dog of F3 Nation. And his name that we call him inside the F3 Nation is Dark Helmet. And Frank is our leader and does an amazing job of setting the tone and the culture and the pace for F3, which stands for Faith, Fellowship, and Fitness. And he is it's a volunteer fitness group that I've been part of now for about 6 months. And they have chapters all over the country, tens of thousands of members. There's about 40 chapters just here in my city in Birmingham. And it's been a life-changing organization for me. I'm so honored that he's on here today. You're gonna hear some great things from him about faith, about fitness, about discipline, and just how his life has been changed, how God's worked in his life. And we're really honored to have him today. I want you to lean in. This is a very, very special guest, and you're gonna learn a ton from him today. Before we get to that, I just wanna remind you on whatever platform you're engaging, listening, watching, please like, subscribe, comment, or you can also join us at our website at ageoflions.com. Join our community. Let us know you're here. Tell us what you're thinking, what you're learning, questions you've got, topics you'd like us to cover. We would love to hear from you because we're on this journey together. So without any further ado, let's get into Frank Schwartz and hope you enjoy this. Lean in and let's get started. Well, hey, Frank Schwartz, what's up, my brother?
Hey there, my friend.
So glad that you're with us today. This is a big deal. I've talked a little bit about you before we got together, just when I introduced you today and told everybody a little bit about who you are, but super honored that you would be on the podcast. I was telling you earlier, I just took a shot. I was like, I don't know this guy, but I know what he's about. I follow him. He leads this organization I'm part of. And I think he would love to talk about the stuff we talk about. So I was just like, I bet his email's this. And I just typed it in. And then he responded right away and said yes. So, man, thank you so much for being willing and available.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My pleasure, my honor to join you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. Normally we start talking about aging, but I want to start with kind of who you are and what you do, because that's how we know each other, how we've connected. Yes. So I've talked a little bit on here about F3, the workout group that I've started joined back in the summer in July. And it's been really impactful to me in myriad ways. And so why don't you tell everybody what F3 is and maybe a little bit of backstory about how you got involved and how you became like what we call I don't know how to pronounce it, Nantan. I don't know how we pronounce that, Nantan. President. Nantan. Yeah. So you're the big kahuna.
Yeah, there's all kinds of idiot lingo and acronyms and all kinds of, it's like any group, like once you get in there far enough, right? You're like,
it's part of the fun though. It is part of the fun.
It is. It works.
My wife loves nothing more than me dropping a name and she'll go, okay, now what's the story? Why is that guy called that? So anyway, I'll give it to you. Tell us about F3.
Yeah, absolutely. So F3 is it's I guess the best way I would describe it is a men's leadership organization disguised as a workout group. Yeah. And the 3 F's stand for fitness, fellowship, and faith. And we are strong believers that a man must first have fitness as his underpinning. He doesn't have to be some kind of Olympic athlete or anything, but he must be disciplined and he must be willing to take care of himself and have that kind of mindset of discipline and that sort of thing in order for him to be the leader that he needs to be. Yeah. And so we start out doing things like, just difficult kind of intense workouts. We have 5 core principles that I'll mention here in a second, but once you're out there and you kind of have those shared suffering experiences with your brothers, then pretty soon that fellowship really builds. And it's an amazing thing that just sort of you bond instantly. And you're just mentioning like your wife asking you about people's names. It's hilarious because there's guys who I have their phone number, I know where they live, and there are guys that I would call. I have no idea what their name is.
That's right.
I have no idea. Right.
Yeah.
I know their F3 name.
That's right. I know them.
If it really hits the fan, I'm calling Spider-Man, but who is
right.
I don't know. I don't know. Although I've gotten better about that over the years. But then the other thing that we kind of accidentally stumbled on early on was that, you get these guys out here for a workout. They start getting friended up and get a little more confidence and a little more strong mindset. And then pretty soon it just naturally went to, well, now that I'm doing okay, how do I reach out and help others do better?
Yeah.
And so there came kind of this service aspect, which really in a lot of ways is our third F. We say faith, but we don't say you must belong to a certain religion or have a certain faith or anything like that. Really, it's a matter of you can't think that you're the king of the world.
Right.
You can't think that you're where it begins and ends. There has to be some sort of outside of you, something bigger than you that dictates your morality and helps you to understand who it is you're supposed to be. Obviously, in our case, as Christians, we look to God and Jesus Christ for that sort of thing. But we don't care if you're a guy who is steeped and raised as a Muslim or a Buddhist or something like that. Great, we don't care.
Yeah.
We just want you to take that thing that you believe in that is bigger than you and be the best freaking one of those that you can possibly be. Right? That's really what we're ultimately interested in because, like it or don't, right? Some guys will be like, well, I don't think we should do that. And I'm like, well, we didn't ask, so that's okay. But you come and you get out here for this workout, man, and you start getting these close relationships. And then no matter what it is that you believe in past that, you realize that your job as a man, your job as a leader is to wear yourself out in the service of others. Yeah. Right. And that's really where we say it's a workout group, but only so that we can get you out here so that we can get you over to this part where, where you're really, your heart is turned out and you're serving others. So that's kind of what we're about. And we do it by living our 5 core principles. Right. And this is the other one that really, in fact, it's funny. I'm in the middle of writing and I'm trying to figure out if it's going to be a book or what it's going to be and kind of exactly what tack it's going to take. But I've really become enamored with this idea of kind of an anti-organization.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So that we don't, anything that the world says an organization ought to do, we kind of try to figure out how to do the opposite. Right. We're largely leaderless. Power is distributed down to, the local regions. I'm not a figurehead per se, because there's a certain amount of leading. There's just enough centralization to kind of keep this whole thing running. But ultimately, it's the important decisions get made, as far as like what happens for the actual men working out, those get made locally. Right. And that's a little bit counterintuitive to, how the world works. We're supposed to accumulate power and we're supposed to centralize these things. So we operate very kind of upstream of the culture, if you will, countercultural. Yeah. And that is that we, no matter what, forever and ever, amen. F3 is free. You will never, ever, 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 not as long as I'm alive, be charged to attend an F3 workout. So it's always free. It's open to all men, kind of like what we were talking about before, where it's like, it doesn't matter your faith. We say all the time, I'm like, well, does F3 let fat guys in? Yeah, I was allowed in. I was huge. Yeah,
same.
Right? Absolutely. Right. Does F3 let black guys in? Yeah. Does F3 let, executives in? Yeah. Does it let poor guys in? Yeah. We don't care. Yeah. We don't care. So it's open to all men, no matter what, full stop, no qualifications on that one.
Love it.
And then kind of that other, I think maybe my favorite one, honestly, is that it's outdoors. Rain or shine, heat or cold, does not matter. Right. And there's just something right. Yeah. And often worse. Like this morning, it was 23 degrees and I was like, I don't know, dude. Bro. Yeah.
Yesterday was my day and I think it was 30. It was actually colder today, but and it was my first, I'm new 3-4 months in. So it was my first like really cold. We've had some wet and kind of cold. Point. But it was freezing cold. Yeah. So it was, but
first winter of F3 is a little bit of an eye opener.
Well, all summer, the guys are like, You think it's bad when it's hot?
Right. Yeah. Just wait. It gets worse.
And, in Alabama, it's humid and it's, in the summertime.
And that cold is different.
It's a wet cold.
Cold gets deep.
Yeah, it gets inside you. Yeah. But go ahead.
But I was saying, so, and the beauty of that is that, that's part of, I think, what bonds us is that this horrible circumstances that are external to us don't dictate our behavior. And we start finding other men that are like-minded in that. And we start finding men that we can rely on, because we look and go, well, this guy's willing to show up at 5 a.m. in 30-degree weather when it's, or worse yet, 33-degree weather and it's raining. And you're like, no human being should want to be out here. And yet, there's just so much joy in it. Yeah. We just can't help ourselves. So we get ourselves out there. And then the nice thing about it is, again, kind of in a leaderless way, the leadership rotates. It's peer led. There's no one getting paid to do any of this, including myself. We have one employee, but he's the guy who kind of administrates the foundation and runs a lot of the operations of the nation. And that was honestly, he was only hired 4 years ago. We've been around for 15. He was only hired 4 years ago because the capacity of volunteers ran out because we were becoming too large and it just was too unwieldy for us to all kind of, keep volunteering, trying to figure out how to keep our heads on all this. So we needed someone full-time dedicated to this deal. And so the time will come, if you come out to an F3 workout, you're going to be asked to lead because every man is a leader, every single one. And we want to prove that to you, right? We want you to get your head around that idea. And then the last thing that we always adhere to, no matter what, is that every F3 workout will end in what we call a circle of trust. And I know you know what that is, but for those that are kind of the newly initiated, if you will, that is where we come in a circle at the end of the workout. And it's an opportunity for us to share. Some guys will offer a prayer. Some guys will, maybe give a shout out, or some inspirational words or whatever it may be. But there's something about coming together. And oftentimes we really do focus on kind of this sharing of burdens. And the phrase that I use a lot and that I really like, and I don't remember where I heard it, but is a joy shared is twice the joy and a burden shared is half the burden.
That's good.
And that is what that circle is for. It's for us to rejoice in those things that are, where we're finding success in our lives, but also to lay at the feet of either our creator and or our brothers to figure out, hey man, I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's kind of countercultural, Mark, is that, the society tells us that the guy that we should celebrate is the king. It's the single entrepreneur or the single guy who's out there running it all by himself. We want some sort of, mystical hero to point to and be like, oh, that's who I'm supposed to be like. Unfortunately, for as many of those guys as there may even be, first of all, if you look at the personal lives, a lot of these guys, they're absolute mess, right? Because they have no balance, right? It's ridiculous. And yet we hold them up somehow as some sort of standard of how we're all supposed to be. It's very strange, right? And in F3, we really reject that. We just absolutely ignore that. We say that's not how any of us is going to survive. It's not how any of us is going to do well. We believe that you only get there with your brothers. And so we want you to have as many brothers as humanly possible so that you have a better chance of getting where it is you're trying to go. And so that's kind of the ethos, underneath all this. And, we could reference our credo of like, leave no man behind, but leave no man where you find him, right? That kind of thing. And there's a lot to all of this, but really it all centers around that outdoor experience, that shared suffering, and then that focus toward moving a man toward wearing himself out in the service of others.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And, it really is incredibly appealing to a guy. Like, so the way I found out about F3, well, my first exposure to it was during COVID. I was leading a small group of men from our church, just a small group. And wherever we were, a coffee shop or wherever we were meeting wasn't open anymore. So I live 2 blocks from the park where I work out, and I walk there every day. And so I was like, hey, there's a park by my house. Let's do our small group at one of the pavilions at the park. It's outside. Police won't bother us, blah, blah, blah. Because, when it first hit, it's like, is the National Guard coming in or like, what's happening? And so we would meet out there early in the morning. It was like a 6 o'clock group. So it was dark. And there were these guys out in the park working out. And I kid you not, I've said it out loud many times. I told them I would never do that.
Yeah. I said the same thing when someone explained to me what happened, and I was like, well, that's stupid. Why would I? No, I'll never do that.
That's insane. And they're walking around with bricks over these cinder blocks over their head. And, it's like, I'm like, there's no way. And that was me for years. And then to your point a minute ago, a guy that was in another small group I'm in now invited me to come. I said, no way. Right. But when I decided to get it together physically, I had to have some discipline in my life. I was overweight. I was this and that. And so I was trying to kind of figure out what to do. I'd already started to eat better. I was losing some weight and things were good. And my wife was like, because I was like, I need to do some physical, I got to work out, And she said, Gray, my buddy Gray Yeager, whose nickname is Meister. So Gray was like, he'd been after me to come and I kept saying no. And she's like, Gray keeps asking you to go to this thing. I know you don't like to go to the gym. You don't like all the da-da-da. Maybe that would be fun for you. It's right here in the park. And so I called and I was like, okay, we're about to go on vacation, but when I get back, I'm coming and I'm telling you now, so you hold me accountable, da-da-da. And so now I'm the crazy guy in the park at 5:30 in the morning.
I love it. And you got some friend calling you going, hey, what is this thing you do again? Because it's really dumb and I'm not sure I want to, but yeah. Right. And
now I'm the evangelist. I'm telling everybody about it. And tell everybody, just so they know the scope and the scale of it. I mean, it's huge. Like how many groups roughly are there and how many people are involved? And just let everybody kind of know what that is.
Yeah. Again, another thing that is kind of countercultural that, everyone say like, oh, well, that's a dumb, you shouldn't do it that way. But, it's a free workout, right? Yeah. You show up. That's it. That's the only requirement is that you just show up. And we don't collect any dues. You don't have to fill out a registration form. Sometimes guys will be like, hey, can we get your email so we can, be in contact with you and tell you the news of what's going on. Right. But you're not required.
Slack channel.
Yeah. Slack channel or whatever. Right. But you're not required to do any of those things in order to participate.
That's right.
You don't have to. Like, we think you should. It would get you connected easier, but you don't have to. There's no requirement. Right. It's not like, well, you didn't give us your email, so you can't be here anymore. Doesn't exist. So
that's right.
The scope of, so it's, I guess I say that to kind of give a little bit of a disclaimer that the numbers that we have are, we think, a pretty good estimate, but they're still just an estimate. Like, we don't know down to the man.
It's like church membership. It's like, we've got a lot of members. Not everybody comes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The guy that showed up in the back, nobody got his name. Okay. Well, I guess maybe he'll show up.
He was here at Easter, but I haven't seen him since.
Right. Yeah. Well, come on Christmas. We'll get him back.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But, so based on that is kind of the disclaimer on the whole thing. One thing we do count, though, is we do count the number of regions that we have. Okay. And we count the number of workouts that we have. And really, that was almost unintentional. Once we created a national map where guys can go and search and find a workout by them, and guys wanted to participate in that because guys would come from downrange, or they would search, and find us or whatever. And they'd be like, where's my local one? And we'd be like, we don't know. So we make this big national map, and guys are pretty good about keeping that up to date. Yeah. So we have a pretty good idea of how many workouts there are and a pretty good idea of how many regions there are. And the way that we sort of define this now is, loosely, you have a certain number of men. We call them packs, which is like short for passengers in like, aeronautical terms. Right. So a certain number of packs kind of makes an area of operation, right? An AO. And then you have kind of a certain number of AOs together, then that roughly makes a region. And then you end up with a certain number of regions makes an area, a certain number of areas makes a sector, right? And so on. Right. And so with all of that said, there are, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,200 weekly workouts. So give or take 5,200 AOs that exist across the world. Obviously, mostly in the US, but England's gotten quite large. There's a couple in kind of over in Kenya and Uganda, like random, right? And usually those launch from a guy who came here for some sort of, work or something like that, and then went home and they were like, we got to keep this going. But that translates to somewhere in the neighborhood, we roughly estimate between 80 and 90,000 guys across the world that are doing this. Yeah.
I know just here in the Birmingham area, we have like 40 groups that I'm aware of.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of the number they throw around. Pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We watch your numbers. I don't know if anybody's keeping, real good track, but we watch the numbers a lot, like on Twitter and stuff like that. And you guys have, on any given day, you'll have 100 and 120 guys out there and, across the various workouts that are working out. It's pretty big. It's pretty big. So,
yeah. And even in my neighborhood, which is called Homewood, there are multiple groups just right here. Yeah. So my group is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We've got Tuesday, Thursday groups. We've got running groups. We've got, there's all the different kinds. And they seem to kind of break down by style of workout or somewhat age, sometimes affinity like that. So like my main group is mostly guys who are a little bit older, a lot of knee braces, wrist braces, I say mostly 40s and 50s, a couple of guys that are a little bit younger. And then, some of us float around with different groups but we'll be out doing our thing. And then another group who is like a run, all they do is run. It seems like, they pass us, when we're, so there's all these
be a younger crowd, man.
They're definitely younger and very fit. And, I wish I was that guy when I was that age, but it's been really, really cool. And like you said, like they're sharing and we've got guys who are lost their job. We got guys whose father had a heart attack. We got people who someone passed away in their family or, all the stuff. And so you don't always know their real name or even their backstory. And I have found over time, it just takes time to like get, we'll go on a ruck or we'll do something where you can talk a little bit more and you kind of learn some things. And I've made some business acquaintances just by conversations so you just never know what's going to happen, but it has been, and while there's zero peer pressure, there is, I don't want to miss, you know what I mean? And it's not because anybody's going to call me and say, where were you?
It's the old FOMO
I just want to be, like I had a season in September when I had to travel a bunch. I missed every Friday for like 6 weeks. And I hadn't missed one since I'd started. And I hated that I couldn't be there.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, just know I'm coming. I'll be there Monday. I got to be out of town. Yeah. And, you realize that's just the normal flow of life. But there's just something about it. And the encouragement, there's no one's yelling at you. Everybody's just like, come on, man, you can do it. And
or if they're yelling at you, it's out of love.
So and it's just, it's like usually funny, they're just messing with you.
Yeah, they're kind of picking on you. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been great. And just speaking for myself, so like I said, it started in July. So July, August, September. So 4 months in, basically, I've lost almost 30 pounds. I feel great. It's been life-changing, and I'm 50. I turned 57 in September. So it started at 56. Nice. Now I'm 57.
Yeah.
And, the first week, it was brutal. It was so hard. I was so weak. You don't realize how weak your shoulders are and your legs. And
you don't realize.
I couldn't do a bear crawl. Couldn't do a burpee. Not really. I mean, I could modify, but now I can do all of it, and it's just crazy how much it has helped me. Your energy's better. You feel better. Your confidence goes up, it's all the stuff that we all know, but having kind of lived through it just recently and still living, kind of in the middle of it, it's been right. Awesome.
And you make a good point in there too, that, even if you've been going to the gym and you're fit, let's say, right? In other words, your vanity muscles look pretty good, or whatever, right? Come and see because it's a different kind of workout. It's very, and this is one of the other things that really attracted me to it early on was it's not a let's go lift heavy weights per se, although you may do that on some given day. I like the fact that it was like, you don't know what you're going to get because I'm a little bit of a chaos junkie, right? So I kind of thrive in that sort of, environment. And also, it's very functionally oriented. Like we want you to get stronger so that you can do, other things, right? So that
real life things.
Exactly. Yeah. We always joke about that if you're in the airport and you've got to carry the bags and they just change gates on you, that you can make it, So it's
100%.
It's good.
And I'm going to tell you, there are moments when things like that happen that I'm like, I can do this well because I did the workout. Like carrying something around the yard or loading some heavy thing in the car or you name it. Yeah, but you're 100% right. It's a very functional. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I think about it all the time in the sense of, this is just like that exercise.
I couldn't have done that a year ago, or I wouldn't have done that a year ago. Because it's kind of both parts, right, Mark? Like your body gets stronger, sure, Maybe your body was strong enough before, who knows, right? Because you were never willing to push it to find out.
Yeah.
And so your body changes, sure, and you get stronger, but your mind also changes. And once your mind gets stronger, all bets are off.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. And, the whole reason I wanted you to come on was to promote the F3 because I love it, but also knowing that there are guys like me, like you, who are a little bit older, starting to move in that category and seeing them out there stretching themselves. And I'm going to tell you that nothing gives me more satisfaction than outperforming a guy younger than me. I'm not going to lie about it.
No, I'm with you.
And I want them to catch up, but it's like, hey, I'm 57 and you're 42 and I just whooped you.
We were out there. It's so funny you say that because literally just this past weekend, I was down in San Antonio with those guys and working out on a Saturday morning and actually a young guy who his dad and I were friends because he used to live here where I am, just outside of Charlotte. They moved to Jacksonville and his kid joins the military. Well, he was there in San Antonio doing some kind of leadership course, randomly showed up at the workout. So it's this 23-year-old kid. And we start bear crawling across this field and I get to the end and I turn around and I'm like, why am I a man old enough to be your father smoking you? You just get to yell at it. So it's great. I love it. I'm with you. It's hilarious. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about that because while there's so many components to aging well, mental, emotional, spiritual, et cetera, physical is one part that you just absolutely can't ignore. When you're investing in the bank of your future, can I play with my grandchildren? Can I live a healthy life? If I have whatever my purpose is, we talk about purpose here a lot. Yeah. Whatever that purpose is, am I going to be able to physically do the things I have to do to make that purpose happen, to fulfill my calling, to make a difference in the world, to have a legacy, to have an impact? Pick your phrase. It's all the same. I've got to physically be able to show up. I've got to be not exhausted all the time. I've got to have the ability to show up well and be present and demonstrate and be a leader. And I think great leaders usually are a little bit more on the fit side. They're living a life of discipline. So that's really why I wanted you to come on here. I want to talk a little bit more about this in the context of aging. And like you and I were talking about before we came online together, you were saying you're 50, you're a newbie to my club. Starting to give myself away a little bit here, but The good thing with your hairstyle is if you get a little thin back here, you can just keep.
That's right. Thankfully, not yet, but
not yet. My pastor likes to call that his sunroof. So it happens. Yeah. But so on your own journey, and maybe you can talk a little about how and why you joined F3. But in your journey of aging, and especially on the physical side, when did you have that moment of kind of realizing, I'm doing okay, but I'm definitely older than I used to be? How does that show up for you? Or what was that aha moment of, the eyes aren't working quite the same or the knees are hurting, whatever the thing is? What was your moment of kind of that realization?
For sure. So I think that, you start, and it is funny how it sort of works, right? At 30, it's like God flips a switch somewhere and your metabolism slows down. And, and I got married a few years before that. Right. And so it's like marriage didn't help me a whole lot. And then, that slows down. And then I'm working real hard in this business that I'd started. And I'm really focused and I'm trying to grow it. And I'm doing all these things. And so I'm doing all the things that the world said I'm supposed to do. But somehow when I came around, just shy of 40 is when I joined F3. Right. So it's 2014. And so I was 39 and I said, man, I got to do something because candidly, you talk about aging and you're starting to get older. And I'll tell you, right at 40, another flip of the switch and
there's something else about it.
I don't know what it is. And so here I am at 50 and I'm like, man, it's kind of happening again. Thankfully, I feel like the result is not as dramatic as it was, 40, right? Yeah. So I'm coming around to 40 and candidly, I was about 50 pounds heavier than I am now. I'll have to send you the picture. People are like, that is not you. I don't think I believe that. Yeah. It looks like a guy wearing a U fat suit or something, that's what I usually get, but honestly, my doctor was like, look, you got to do something. So it actually kind of parallels your story a little bit. Right. Because my doctor, she was like, look, you're overweight. You've been overweight for years. Cause I've been seeing her for years. And she's like, you need to exercise. And I'm like, yeah. I'll do it when I get time. I was pretty fit when I was a kid. I, played sports and did things. And so I was like, I'm probably fine. Like I'm okay. You know,
I'm
like,
country strong. I'm strong on the inside.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I am fat and out of shape, and it's terrible. But I was, I was overweight. I had sleep apnea. I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. All these things that were there. And she's like, "Look, you're kind of a stroke waiting to happen.
Yeah, ticking time bomb.
It's coming. And if you don't change something." And so I did kind of what you did. I started going to the gym a little bit and started to get a little bit fit. Now, my idea of going to the gym, right, was I'd go and kind of, jog on the treadmill for a mile and be like, oh, whew, man, killed it. 13 minutes, not bad, or whatever. I don't remember what it was, right? And then I would go over to these machines, and move those things around like I knew what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was doing something.
Something, yeah.
Right. And so and then I would, I'd up the intensity a little bit, over time, but, and I started to lose a little bit of weight. And I kept hearing about this F3 thing, And finally I was like, well, what do they do out there? And I asked this buddy of mine, like, hey, what are you doing? Cause like, you look good. And he's like, I'm doing F3. And I was like, all right, tell me about it. He tells me about it. And I was like, oh yeah, there's no way I'm doing that. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like that. I don't think I'm prepared for that. I don't think I'm man enough for that. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of put it off. And then pretty soon, eventually, you keep hearing about it. And I was like, all right, fine. So I show up on a Saturday and, to your point, thought I was going to die, and I was not prepared to go back for another week, So I just started going on Saturdays for a little while. And what I found, though, is after kind of maybe that second or third time, a couple things happened. One, my mind had started to shift. And I started to recognize, like, okay, my body has not changed that dramatically in, a month. Or 3 weeks or whatever, that suddenly now I'm really fit and suddenly now I'm, out here killing it. But my mind had changed because I had seen myself do the hard thing. And I was like, okay, I guess I actually am capable of more. And then I started to remember back to the wrestling days and the water skiing days and things like that, where you would push, well past, good sense, right. And
no fear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Too stupid to know that you should not do these things. Right. Right. And, but then so my mind changed. And then the other thing that I found is, that fellowship piece, there was something about that COT, the circle of trust at the end, when we all gathered up and we laid hands on one another and a guy poured his heart out. And I was like, I think this is what my small group at church is supposed to be like. This is what our men's group is supposed to be like. And I remember going home and telling my wife that, and she was like, what do you mean? Like, the church isn't giving you everything you could possibly need? And I was like, it's not what I'm saying, right? That's not what I'm saying. Like there's more here. There's something to this. Yeah. And what I have found now, bad genetics and whatever else, right? So about 4 years ago, I had to get both my knees replaced because they were like, you have the knees of a 75-year-old man. And I was like, I'm assuming you mean that in a bad way. I don't know. I'm guessing that's not good. They're like, well, no, you're 45. Like, you got to do something different, right? So I ended up having to get that done. But even that recovery, like the mental strength and the physical strength to be able to recover quickly, to get back out. And now, they still hurt, but in a different way. It's fine. Right. But I'm much more willing to tolerate the pain. I'm much more willing to continue to push. And people are like, pain means you shouldn't do that. And I was like, no, pain means it's like, maybe I shouldn't do that too much. That's all it means. Like, don't get weird about pain. Pain's fine. Because it's just what we deal with.
You're not wrong. I mean, that mindset shift of I can do this, I can do more than I thought I could do.
Yeah.
It really, I hadn't really thought about that. It's been more, I've just thought about the physical side of it. But it's really true because learning the exercises and like you said, this muscle confusion is all over the place. We do different things every time, sometimes, but so there's been some times when I'm like, I can't make it, or I had a weird day or a travel schedule. So I'll do some things on my own and I will do them, but it's not the same as when you're out there. You're not going to push yourself as much as when the other guys are with you. And there's that positive peer thing of like, I can't be the guy who can't do 20 sit-ups or whatever. And so there is something about that. And then once I got through that week of just dying and so sore and why am I doing this? And, and I mean, I've worked out before. I knew it was going to be that way. I knew it would be hard, but you do kind of quickly get in the shift of like, but it's okay. I'm not going to die. I'll just push through I'll push through the pain, push through the soreness, and the reward is on the other side. And so the principle of that alone is worth the price of admission, so to speak. I mean, it's just so helpful to have that confidence.
Yeah, 100%. And that was, you kind of mentioned like going through and I think that was also part of what started leading me down this road of, because sort of the natural progression for me, and I don't know if it's the exact same for everybody, but I do see it quite a bit, right? Is a guy comes out and then once his brain gets a little bit unlocked, right? And he realizes that he's capable. And then, like we mentioned, you sort of move through this fellowship over to this service faith kind of side of things. And he starts realizing that there's more to life, right? The analogy I give all the time is like, imagine the guy, Bob, and at the end of the day, Bob has worked for, 35 plus years, right? He's 35 plus years old. So, he's been around, he's doing things, his career's going well. He's married. He just had kid number 2. So they just upgraded their house, right? A new baby seat means not enough room in the Accord. Yeah. Not enough room in the Accord anymore. Got to get a Tundra or something, something, right? Yeah. The Highlander or whatever. And so, they got to upgrade the car, right? Mom's got the minivan now, so she can have all that stuff in there. And he's gotten a promotion, right? Because he's been in long enough now, and he's promoted, or he's changed jobs so that he's upgraded, right? And he's thinking to himself on paper, and this was me, run a very successful business, doing really well, thought I was just killing it in the world, had all these great employees, was doing, just thought, man, I've got this, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And yet at the end of the day, I would sit down at the end of my bed, hold my sock in one hand going, why do I feel empty? I've got church. I'm a believer. I'm super active in my church, and I'm a deep believer in those things that I profess, and I'm in there, I'm doing it, man. I'm serving, I'm doing all the things. And yet still there was just this sort of, there's gotta be more to this. There's gotta be something else that I'm missing here. And I think it's because you sort of get to this first half of life. There's like these tasks that you must complete as a man, right? Certainly in the Western world, right? You need to be chasing your career a little bit. You've got to get to a point where you have some comfort and stability there. So you've done that work where you've some employer has found you valuable enough to promote you or to keep you around, or, or whatever, right? You've managed to create a stable family environment where it's okay for you to have another kid, right? If you were in an unstable family environment, you don't want to add children to that. It's a terrible idea, right? If you and your wife are fighting, and I see you guys do it sometimes, but like if you and your wife are never getting along, having a child is not going to solve that. I know you think so.
That's not the solution.
Not going to work. Yeah, it's going to make it worse. I promise, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm drowning, and then someone throws you a baby. Yeah, that's the old Jim Gaffigan joke, right? It's like, don't do that. It's a bad choice. So you're like, okay, we've got this stuff that we've done, and that's where I was sitting. Is I go, well, okay, God, now what? Now what? What am I supposed, I thought I was supposed to be fulfilled. I thought this was supposed to make me happy. And I was, I was happy. I was fine.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong,
Good, but not great.
I could just recognize there was more, and I could not figure out how to get that more. And then I found F3. And one of the things that it talks about, there's a couple of books that Dave Redding, our one of our co-founders, wrote, Free to Lead and Q-Source. And if a guy gets out there and reads Free to Lead, man, it's really about like this idea of personal purpose is embedded in there.
Yeah.
That a guy needs to figure out, what it is he's for. And the analogy I use all the time now is kind of, and Blockbuster, this will work well for you as well, right? You'll understand completely. But, if you stay to the end of the movies, right, you watch the credits roll. Well, every man on the planet, every person really, but certainly every man on the planet, we all share the same universal purpose, right? To wear ourselves out in the service of others, right? And if you're a believer, that's to disciple men and bring them to Christ, right? I mean, that's our job, right? To help God in His work to to help people to come to him. That's our
we
job.
call that the general calling. That calling is for every believer.
Perfect. Yep. And so that is make the movie. So everybody in that whole list of people, and if you watch like the Avengers or something like that, 17 minutes worth of credits, the hundreds of names that go by, right? All those people, they had one purpose, which was make the movie. So the general calling is make the movie, serve mankind. Now the question becomes, okay, but am I craft services? Right? Am I bringing food to people, or am I makeup? Am I the key grip? Like, but what's my job? What do I get to do? How am I contributing? I understand that I'm contributing, but it can't be by sitting on the side of the set, and then when the director says cut, you go, "Good job, everybody." That's not a job. That's right. In a film set, like, not that I'm aware of anyway. I've never seen cheerleader. Right.
If it is, I'm not paying for it.
Right. Yeah. That's you're volunteering that one. Yeah. Because we don't need that kind of work. Right. So, those don't exist. And so the guys that sit on the sideline and either cheer other guys on or and even in life, that's a little more useful maybe, but I promise you, that's not your job.
Right.
That's a function you could perform in addition to your job, but there is something. Your name is next to something on that list. Right. Yeah. And I don't care if it's the second assistant to, Mr. De Niro's makeup art. I don't care what it is. Right. But your name goes next to something in there. And I think every guy's got to come to a reckoning and say, what's my job? What's my purpose?
Yeah.
And I think you can't figure it out in that first half of life. I think you've got to be too focused on these other tasks. You've got to get to this middle part where you go, okay, now that I've done that, the real question is the what's next, right?
Yeah.
And once you kind of start leaning into figuring out, okay, well, how do I push that idea? Then it gets really weird and you got to start figuring some stuff out. And that's when you really need a lot of help to kind of work through this. That's something that I think is difficult to figure out on your own, right?
I think it's the thing. A lot of the first half of life stuff is a lot of it's figuring out what you don't want to do. It's going, tried that. Some people get lucky. They kind of stumble into it a little sooner, or God's plan for them is a little bit different, and that's great. But the reality is, most of us, it does take a little bit of trial and error to sort of figure out, even if you know what you're good at or know what you love, there's still some refining that happens on there. And just to reinforce your point, one of my favorite verses is Ephesians 2:10. It says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." And what I love about that verse, and I tell this to people all the time, is he didn't create you and then go, okay, now what am I going to do with this person?
It wasn't mine before he got there.
It wasn't you. And then let's find something for him to do. It's like, no, the purpose existed before all time began. He had the purpose in mind. He created you to fulfill that purpose, whatever that is. There's the big purpose, like you said, there's the movie. But inside of that, what is your role? And we talk about this all the time because it's like so many people, I think, when they get to our age and older and they start to kind of move into that stage of life, the world is kind of saying, you're done, wrap it up, retire, go play golf. But the gospel, scripture, God is telling us, no. If anything, you've got more opportunity now than you ever had. You have more time, more margin, more resources, more wisdom, hopefully more experience. And so there's so much more that we can bring to the table, whether it's be with younger people, whether it's in an organization we start, a ministry, a thing like you do where you serve, maybe it's a business you start. But it's always so inspiring because we talk to a lot of people on here that have made big changes after 50. They go, you know what? Wasn't really where I needed to be, or maybe I loved what I did, but then God brought a new opportunity. I took a leap of faith. I didn't know how to do it. I just figured he would make it happen. And the joy they bring, the energy they have, the purpose they have is it's a hard line between those who know what it is and are or even if they don't, but they're pursuing it. And the other people who are like, I don't know, I don't care, I'm too tired, I don't have it, It's a marked difference.
100%. I totally agree. A couple of things come to mind. One is an analogy that I've used a bunch of times where it's like you spend those first few decades climbing the mountain, and then you hit this point and you think it's the summit.
Right.
Until you get over the edge of it. And then you're like, oh crap.
There's
knew
another mountain.
there was more. There's another mountain.
And I got to go down.
There's another summit. Right. Any number of things.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
that's good.
When you get there, there's this beautiful meadow, and it is and it's sunny, and it's perfect. It's so good there. And a lot of guys go, you know what? I'm camping. I'm done. That was too tiring, and I have no interest in doing anything else. And those are the guys that, unfortunately, when they start to make the second half of their life, those are the guys that oftentimes find themselves going, well, the things that I did in my first half that I thought I was finding fulfillment in was, I bought stuff. I'll get a new car. Yeah. Right. Oh, I fell in love with this woman. Well, this woman that I've got isn't doing it for me. I'll find a new one of those. Right. And so then they kind of become this classic, example of the midlife crisis where then
what not to do.
Right. Exactly. Because they camped, and God has no intention of you camping. It reminds me, I was going to mention that, there's the story that Christ tells of the rich young man, right? That comes to him and he says, look, he was a ruler. He had accomplished so many things in the first half of his life. And it says young, and I don't know what young meant back then, but I presume that it was like, let's say he's mid-30s. To me, that's pretty young, sure. Right? I'm old enough to be that guy's dad. Like, that's right. So he comes and he says, all right, look, I've nailed it, man. I'm rich. I've been given many responsibilities. Clearly I'm doing well. So Christ, now what? Like, what do you got for me now? Right? And Christ is like, oh, easy peasy. Those things were tasks that you completed, and I'm proud of you. I think that's awesome. Now, the real hard part is about to begin, and that is this. You are going to have to cast away all of those things, whether literally or emotionally or both, right? Don't know, right? But you have to say that all those things didn't matter, because now what I'm going to call you to do is to create with me, right? I am the creator of heaven and earth, right? And all things that in them are. So I'm going to say now, this is your opportunity. You and you completed those tasks. I know I can trust you, right? If you did those things well. So now I'm going to give you I'm going to put you in and say, okay, are you ready to create the second half? And unfortunately, a significant number of guys look and go, but I have many things, and I don't think I'm willing to do that.
Sure.
I don't think I'm willing to do that. And then they find themselves stuck, and they find themselves miserable, and they find themselves in whatever situation. But a guy, and here we're talking about 50s plus, and I think this is, I'll tell you what, I've enjoyed 50 more than I enjoyed 40, and I thought I was doing great at 40.
Same.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm in better shape. Maybe even if I'm just in as good a shape, doesn't matter. Right. But physically I'm good. But to your point, like you were saying, at 35, I didn't have enough life experience to really mentor anybody. Not really.
Not really.
I might be able to help a couple kids with a couple things, but like here at 50, I tell you, man, another 15 years, and I've messed up enough stuff. And I've traveled down this road with my own mentors, my own, peers and things like that, to where I go, I actually kind of have a pretty good idea how this whole deal can work. And what I recognize is it's not that I have all the answers or that I have all the advice. It's that I recognize the patterns now of how God works in my life and how I've seen him work in the lives of other men. Yeah. So that then we can say, okay, I'm not here to fix your problems. I'm not here to solve your worries. What I can do for you though, is I can come alongside you and say, okay, I can hopefully help guide you, and so that you weather those storms well, so that you don't get to that fake summit and go, I think I'll camp. Yeah. Instead, I can be there to say, I'm glad you're here. I'll give you one night. You can camp one night, right? Pat yourself on the back. You happy now? Good. Because guess what? The rest of our lives are going to be spent going down the mountain, finding another man and pointing him toward his mountain.
That's so good.
And all of us climb, and and that's forever. And some guys get real discouraged by that. Yeah. Right. But that's our job.
It is our job. And it's so rewarding when you get to do it. That's the thing that people, if they haven't done it, they don't realize. And what I thought you were going to say, which is kind of what you said, is like, hey, I've actually been to this next mountain. It's better than that one.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me take you there,
Right.
and then maybe someone else takes us. But it's that encouragement, the brotherhood, the support. You know, the Western myth is to be a man means you do it alone. You don't need anybody, and it's such a cliche and such a caricature of reality that
Right.
I feel dumb saying it sometimes. It's like, does anybody believe that? But people do. They buy into it all the time.
My dad, this is legit. My dad had a bumper sticker that said, "He who dies with the most toys wins."
Yeah.
And I was like, wins what? You know, but I didn't ask that. Early on, I was like, got it. Accumulate. Right. Yeah. That's what was in my mind. Okay. Consume. Sure. That is what I'm for. And I think that, our society to a large degree is, this consumption mindset and this accumulation mindset has really, really kind of plagued us, because what we ought to be doing is just what we were taught in the Bible to do, which is, that rich young man, right, is to cast off all that stuff.
Yeah.
And focus here. And we will find that we actually didn't need any of that. None of that's going to fulfill you. I always say, there ain't no Lamborghini sized hole in your heart, brother.
That's right.
It ain't there.
It's so true. It's so true. And that all of that is so, there's so much power in what you're saying, because the experiences, the journey itself, like that's where the reward is. It's not the top of the mountain itself is great. And yes, there's a beautiful view and all the stuff, but it's really the journey is where the richness comes. Those are the stories we tell. I don't tell people about how great the top of the mountain is. I talk about how hard it was to get there. And any storyteller like you or me who does that for a living, you understand like the power is in the tension in the story. It's the release feels good at the end just for a minute, but you can't stay there. It doesn't really work.
Yeah. Because if you camp at that false summit, guess what? You're going to get fat. That's emotionally and physically. Because you're back in the garden, baby. You had to be cast out of the garden. Man. You weren't supposed to be here. This is not where you're for. You're for the lone and dreary world, baby. Right? Yeah. Where you work, and that's what you're for. Yep. That's right. It's tough, but it's real. It's real.
It is tough. Yeah, that's so true. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up, and we've kind of covered this in myriad ways, but I would just love to kind of take a final stab at, to the people, men and women, but I know we kind of talked a lot about men today, but men and women who are watching this and they feel stuck and they're like, I know there's more. I want more. I got to find a way to get more, not more things, but more of what God has for me and all that. Mm-hmm. I'd just love a kind of a final word from you, a challenge to them, an encouragement to them, from your own experience or whatever. But what's your final word from Frank?
Yeah, I'll be as brief as I can, but I'll share this thought, and it's one that I think has made a big difference for me as I've kind of continued down this road of purpose. Right, I feel like, and I think it refines, continues to refine. But right now, if you asked me and said, "Well, Frank, okay, what's your personal purpose?" My personal purpose is to equip and exhort men to overcome self-limiting beliefs, so that they can discover their own personal purpose and become maximally effective in their areas of influence, wherever it is that they live and wherever it is they work, right? That's my job, is to look a guy in the eye and go, I know the BS story that you've told yourself. I know the BS story that your parents told you. I get it. It's okay. And I understand that you believed it. And I know there's a lot of pain associated with it a lot of times. But guess what? None of it's true. It's all fake. It's all not real. What's real is the capital T truth that, to your point in Ephesians, right, that God put in you before you were made. He needed something done. And he said, I will make a Mark Clement to accomplish this thing that I need done for my children. And that's why I tell guys all the time, look, your job is not to invent some personal purpose. Your job is to uncover it, right? Get all the crap that the world has placed on you over 35 years or whatever it is, right? And to scrape all that off, and then to be like, aha, here is this beauty underneath. This is what we are here for. And so I tell guys all the time, there's kind of 3 P's that go along with it, right? There's patterns, there's people, and there's pain. The patterns are the things that, as you've gone through life, you start to recognize and go, I always get asked to do the same things, right? Mark, I don't know why. Everywhere I go, they're like, why don't you host this meeting? Because that's part of who I am, right? This is part of what I do. Because bringing men into community is a talent. It's a gift. And because we can do that, that's part of how we overcome self-limiting beliefs, by showing you other men doing the same thing, right? There's other patterns. There's things that you've done. There's stuff that you can't, even if you wanted to not do it, you can't help yourself, right? Yeah. So you look for those patterns in your life. Then you start serving people. And you just find the right group. For me, it's men. It's men, usually in that midlife crisis stage. I love guys in their 20s. I think they're fantastic, right? I have a lot of respect and love for guys in their 60s and 70s. I think it's wonderful. I love women. I have 3 daughters, right? Absolutely. I have no real ability to serve those people unless I'm told what to do. Someone can tell me and I can do it, right? Yeah, so I can serve them in that sense. But I know what it feels like, and I know what a man needs when he's in that crisis, because I had one, and that was the pain, right? So remember there I said pain. That was one of the pains that shaped me, that helped me to uncover and go, okay, I understand what I am to do now, right? Now, some of that comes with pain from when you were a kid, right? I tell guys all the time. In fact, I said it in San Antonio, and I had a lot of guys come up afterward and were like, that's exactly it, right? But I say all the time,
how did you know?
Yeah, it's your dad's fault. I got it. It's your dad's fault. But now it's your responsibility, right? That's the deal. So uncovering and stripping off this pain is part of the deal. So you look at those things and you start to really introspect. It's a lot of prayer. It's a lot of leaning on others, and someone who can objectively tell you some of those things about yourself, right?
Sure.
But I can tell you, whatever process you use, as you rely on God and as you say to yourself, okay, I believe that my name belongs to something in this giant credit roll. Will you help me uncover that? Yeah. It will come. It will come, and it will be hard, and it will be, all the things that you would want it and expect it to be, right? But once you kind of get there, man, I'm telling you, the way that Dave Redding phrases it that I really love, that really resonated with me, was, now it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I know why I'm there.
That's right.
Yeah. And that is a whole different kind of freedom.
Yeah. The why is everything.
Yeah.
So that was, when you said your statement a minute ago, I call that the why statement, but I've got one as well. I know exactly. It doesn't matter what the job is. It doesn't matter where I get put or anything else. My statement is I help kingdom-minded believers fulfill their God-given dreams.
Boom.
Period.
Love it.
Because like you, I love to see that light bulb come on. I want them to figure out, and that's just a colorful way of saying figure out what your purpose is and do it. Because I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in other people. Like, there's nothing to me more rewarding than seeing anyone. But in this case, these men get that moment where they go, okay, this is my thing. And then the light bulb comes on and the energy goes up and the passion, and they talk about it all the time.
Yeah. And you get out of their way and watch what they do.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible. It's incredible. And they kind of figure out what they were designed to do, which of the roles on the credits is theirs.
That's why it's not surprising to me, Mark, that you're in the business that you're in, and that I was as well, because doing what we did or do, right? That is part of that. It's helping them connect with their story and what they do in a way that is, that they can see it and hear it and go, yeah, I really am passionate about this, right? I really do have talents here. And they start to really, and I don't know, I always used to say this, and I suspect it's very much the same with you, where you're like, man, all I want is for you to get everything you need. Yeah. And once that happens, like, I'm good. They're like, well, what's your, what are you trying to get? Nothing. Yeah. I just want you to get what you want. And then somehow that brings me some kind of weird joy. So I'll just keep doing it. I
just want that.
Yeah. Right. So whatever that is, I'm just going to do that.
That's right. That's so good, man.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I appreciate it so much. It's been really, really fun to hear your heart and just get to know you a little bit and make this connection. It's again, what you do for me has been really, really impactful, even though it's not direct, but indirectly through the organization and my guys. So I'll shout out my AOQ is Whoopi, and all my guys, and yeah. Do you know Whoopi? Yeah,
I think I met him. I met him when I was down
there. Yeah. And I haven't told them yet that this was happening. I wanted to kind of get it done and so forth, but I can't wait for them to tune in and hear it and just kind of hear what you have to say. I think it's really, really powerful. So, appreciate you. I hope I get to run into you again sometime. Thanks for the 100%.
Time. 100%. It was a blessing to be with you, man. I appreciate it.
Well, as promised, that was an incredible interview. So cool. I've been kind of sitting on that for a few weeks and just could not wait to share it with you guys. So I hope you got as much out of it as I did. We've got some amazing episodes coming up over the next few weeks. We've got Krista Hollander next week. We've got Tim and Susan Tucker coming up. We've got some amazing things scheduled for February, and I can't wait for you to join in as we continue to learn how to age with purpose, learn how to respond to God's call in our life, and be the people that we are meant to be in our 50s, our 60s, our 70s as we continue to grow and thrive and become world changers. So thank you for leaning in with us, and I hope you have a great day. Can't wait to see you next week. We'll talk to you soon.